Hey everybody, it's Pastor Max. I pray you guys are doing well. Guys, we are in our series WTF, What the Faith, and we are dealing with people who held on to their faith and walked it out and lived it out in some of the most adverse times and conditions in all of biblical history. Let me tell you this, having faith is an important thing. It is essential. It is foundational. It is something that will allow us to stand when others won't. And so we need to develop and cultivate that deep level of faith so that God can get the glory out of us and accomplish the purposes that he wants in the world today through us. So guys, we're in this series, but before we get started for today and continue on Daniel's story, I just wanted to take a moment to thank you guys for sticking with LifePoint Church. We know that this has been an awkward season in the life of the church. We know that it has been difficult for people to not have in-person fellowship, in-person worship services. We know that it seems like the church has left the building, but we believe that God is doing something that we don't even understand and can't even fully comprehend right now in the season. So guys, I want you to continue to hold fast. We are praying right now towards January for our grand reopening to do things the right way and for people to be able to worship together in a healthy and safe way. Guys, we are praying for you guys. We know that some of you guys have actually been impacted and affected by coronavirus and some of the other things that have happened because of it, like the loss of jobs, like the unique family situations with everyone being in the home together all the time, not being able to go out and do some of the things that you would like to do, and not having the same level of comfort and privilege to go to and fro as we would have before. For people having to deal with their education and parents becoming homeschool teachers. Guys, we know that this is a difficult season, and I want you to know that all of us who are on the team here at LifePoint are praying for you. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. We are praying for you. We need you to know that if you can hold on to God, God will hold on to you. And I remember that poem about footprints in the sand and how there were two sets of footprints for a long time. And then you only see one set of footprints and the person is basically like, God, why have you left me alone? Only to discover that the reason that there was only one set of footprints was because God was actually carrying them and he was walking them through this time. It may seem difficult, it may seem hard, but I need you to know that God has got you right now. Wherever you are, whatever you're going through, God sees it, God knows it, God cares, and God can see you through. So I need you to hold on, to hold fast to his unchanging hand, and to stay close to God, because God desires to stay close to you. And I think that that's part of what this series is about. We want to stay strong for Jesus. We want to hold fast to our God, our Savior, our Lord, our brother, our friend. But in order to do that, we overcome by our testimonies and by the blood of the Lamb. And so, guys, I need you to take these stories from the scriptures, not as fairy tales, because they're not. The scripture is true. It's living and it's active. These are testimonies of what God has done in the life of people. And if we can hold on to that, then we can do as they did. And when it says this in Revelation, they overcame by their testimonies and by the blood of the Lamb. So, guys, hold on to these stories right now. Hold on to them, savor them in your heart, so that one day we can speak about you when we do what WTF part 2. And it can be the stories of how you held fast to your faith and how you held on to God in difficult times. So guys, let's go ahead and open up in prayer, and then we are going to continue on the story of Daniel as we deal with a lion's share of problems, part 2. Let's go ahead and pray. Father, we ask right now that you would bring glory to yourself in this time, that you would speak to us in this time, that you would encourage us in this time, that you would reaffirm us in this time, that you would invigorate us in this time, that you would empower us in this time so that we can go out and live for you. God, it's difficult to be exiles in a foreign land. It's difficult to be exiles and to be different than the rest of the culture. But we thank you that, God, you have made us exiles here on earth, that we can stand for you in a culture that doesn't know you and be a testimony for you to a culture that doesn't know you, so that we can see salvation for a culture that will come to know you. So God, would you speak to us right now? God, breathe into us The same way you breathe into the scriptures and bring them to life, breathe into us and give us life. Give us just new energy for you. Give us a restored, revived faith. Don't let us walk in a stale faith, God. Don't let us walk in staleness. Jesus, we desperately need you right now, oh God. God, it's getting difficult. The season has dragged on long. And God, we feel weary, but would you strengthen us so that we can finish this season better than we started it? God, give us the energy we need, the drive we need, and the encouragement we need. Most importantly, God, would you make us more intimate with you? Teach us to rely on you in a deeper and more profound level than we ever have. God, help us to trust in you more, to fix our eyes on Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, and to bring you glory. And it's in Jesus' name. Amen. Guys, we're going to pick up where we were in Daniel chapter 6. Daniel chapter 6. And so as we're going to pick up where we're reading today, a little backdrop to where we were last week is that we started into chapter 6, and we begin to see that King Darius has decided to do a governmental restructuring. And so what he's done is he has appointed satraps, I think it was 120 of them, to oversee all of the land. And he has appointed 3 administrators to oversee these 120 satraps. And so what he's doing is he's reorganizing and reshuffling his government so that it can be managed most efficiently. He's trying to help his kingdom maximize its potential. And because of that, Daniel has risen up. He has floated to the surface. He has elevated and shown himself to be somebody who can be trusted, because every time that Daniel puts his hand to something, he's successful, and God has gifted him as this administrator. And we talked about the fact that God will single you out. Your gifts, as the Bible says, will make room for you. Sometimes when you're walking in Christ, sometimes when you're living in Christ, what happens is that your abilities, they show themselves. The spirit that God has given you, the gifting that God has given you, it shows itself, and other people see it. That can be both good and bad, because when the right people see it, it will elevate you into the positions of leadership and success that you need. But when haters see it, it can make them want to take you down. It can make them want to see your downfall. It can make them want to trip you up. And that's exactly what happened to Daniel. The haters, the other people, the other administrators, the satraps didn't like that his management skill was so good, that his abilities were so good. And so what they did is they schemed to find something against him, but they could not, because he was faithful and he was right and he had integrity in everything he did. Let that be your testimony, that in everything you do, you are faithful and you have integrity in everything you do. He had so much faithfulness and integrity that when it came down to it, even the haters that he came up against said, we can't find anything against him. And if we're going to find something, it's going to have to do in the law of his God. Let that be the case, that people can't find anything in you because of the way you walk it out with Jesus. So what they did is they had King Darius create a law that said that no one should worship any other gods but him for a certain period of time. But Daniel's a faithful man, and he's faithful to his God. And so every day, every single day, Daniel would go upstairs in his house and he would pray to God 3 times a day, because he wanted to keep his intimacy with his Father. He wanted to keep his faithfulness with his Father. Well, what these men did is they tiptoed and searched around corners and looked in windows and went to the private places where Daniel prayed, just to find him doing what he was supposed to be doing by his faith. And then they went to the king and said, King, didn't you put in place a decree that no one should worship anybody else? Well, we found Daniel doing it. And based on your decree, Daniel has to be punished and he has to be thrown into the lion's den. That's the backdrop of what we studied last week. And now we're going to pick it up. And one of the things that happens is that because King Darius made this decree, Daniel had to be thrown in the lion's den. Well, as I began to do more research into the text, one of the amazing things about it was this decree was so powerful that it had to actually be completed that particular day, which means Daniel had already been praying. Then the information was brought to King Darius, and King Darius wanted to save Daniel. And so when we pick up our text And the haters are talking to the king, and they say this: "Now, O king, establish the injunction and sign the document so that it may not be changed according to the law of the Medes and Persians, which may not be revoked." Therefore, King Darius signed the document, that is the injunction. Now, when Daniel knew the document was signed, he entered his house. Now in his roof chamber, he had windows open towards Jerusalem. He continued kneeling on his knees 3 times a day, praying and giving thanks before his God. Daniel didn't let unjust laws stop him. He didn't let something get in the way of his worship. He didn't put a political idolatry in front of his worship. I think that's just a good side point in the current season we're in. And it says this: "These men came by agreement." That means they were on a unified front to go and find Daniel doing what they knew he would be doing, and found Daniel making petition and supplication before his God. Then they approached and spoke before the king about the king's injunction. "Did you not sign an injunction that any man who makes a petition to any god or man besides you, O king, for 30 days is to be cast into the lion's den?" The king replied, "The statement is true, according to the law of the Medes and Persians, which may not be revoked." Then they answered and spoke before the king. "Daniel, who is one of the exiles from Judah, pays no attention to you." Look how they hate it. Did it say that Daniel paid no attention to it? No, Daniel just had a priority that his God came before everything else. "Daniel, who is one of the exiles from Judah, pays no attention to you, O king, or to the injunction which you sign, but keeps making his petition 3 times a day." Then as soon as the king heard this statement, he was deeply distressed and set his mind on delivering Daniel. And even until sunset, he kept exerting himself to rescue him. This week, we're going to change up in the story of Daniel. Last week, we talked about the consequences of holding to your faith, because the truth is, when you stand for your faith, you don't really have a faith trial unless you have some adversity. There will always be consequences to holding on to your faith. And Daniel experienced those in being singled out, in dealing with haters, and in dealing with these trials and these tests. God will allow us to go through those things. Let's tell the truth about it, that there are things we go through because we hold on to our faith. And here we see our hero holding on to his faith. But let me tell you that the test and the trials and the haters and the singling out is not the thing that we should focus on the most. I love what Hebrews says when it says, "Fix your eyes on Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith." Let me tell you something there. Keep your eyes on the prize. Look at the finish line. Keep your eyes on the finish line, not on the crowd that surrounds you, not on the haters that are around you, not on the things that are being said, but fix your eyes on Jesus. And I guess what I'm telling you today is that means that Jesus is our finish line. When we run our race in life and we do the things that we need to do, Jesus is our finish line. All we're trying to accomplish is to finish the race that God has given us and make it straight to Jesus. Run hard and run straight into his arms as he's sitting there at the end of the finish line waiting on you. And that's what Daniel did. He fixed his eyes on the Lord. When you fix your eyes on the Lord and you run your race, what you need to know today is that God is a rewarder of those who diligently seek him. I love what Hebrews says. It says, "Those that would please him must believe that he is, and that he's a rewarder of those who diligently seek him." What does that mean? That means God can bless. God can bless over the best. God can bless you better than anyone else can bless you. God can show himself strong better than anyone else can show himself strong. And that is the reality you need to hold on today. So today we're going to talk about what are the rewards of holding to your faith. Last week we dealt with the consequences, but this week we deal with the rewards. And let me tell you something today. God has some good rewards to those who hold on to their faith. The first reward that I think you need to hear about today is that God will identify people in your corner. Let me say it again because y'all don't understand. This is speaking to me in my own life right now. In the midst of trials, in the midst of tribulation, in the midst of turmoil, when you're going through things, sometimes we get upset that we're going through. But sometimes when we're going through, the people around us show themselves to be who they really are. Some people are haters. Some people are good for nothing. Some people don't have your best interest at heart. But God can also identify the people who have your best interest at heart. Let me tell you this, sometimes it's not until you get into the pit that you find out who will throw the rope down, who will throw the ladder down, who will climb down and pull you out. And that's a real treasure to have in your life. When you figure out who are the people that will stand by you, not just in the good, not just in the prosperous times, but in the hard times and in the bad times, who really has you on their heart. As we go into this text, you can see this. In verse 12, it says, then they approached and spoke before the king about the king's injunction. Did you not sign an injunction that any man who makes a petition to any god or man besides you, O king, for 30 days is to be cast in the lion's den? Daniel clearly got to see who his haters were. But in 14, you see clearly gets to see who loves him, who's in his corner. It says this, then as soon as the king heard the statement, he was deeply distressed and set his mind on delivering Daniel. It's a great thing when kings are in your corner. It's a great thing when people are thinking about you and care about you and want what's best for you. Look what happens in 14 and 15. Then as soon as the king heard the statement, he was deeply distressed and set his mind on delivering Daniel. The king had made the decree, but I'm going to tell you this, if he knew that decree would have impacted Daniel, he would not have made that decree. He wanted to see Daniel delivered. So what he was really saying is, if this decree got to stand, I want it to stand for everybody else but Daniel. Why? Because I like Daniel. I trust Daniel. I approve of Daniel. Daniel is on my heart. It says this, and it says, and he, even until sunset, he kept exerting himself to rescue him. What it means is that he didn't just in his mind liked him, but through the efforts of his life, he liked Daniel. It says he was exerting himself. What a lot of historians believe is that what the king did was he went to all of the lawmakers and he went to all of the historians and had them try to find some way that he could break his own decree so that he could keep from seeing Daniel sentenced. It means that from the moment he heard what the haters had to say, he was looking for a way to rescue Daniel. You need people in your corner who want to see you saved, who want to see you safe, who want to see you whole, who want to see you healthy. That's the reality of what the king was doing, and he put his efforts behind it. That is a good thing to know when people are in your corner. We see this play out a little bit more as we go through the text. 15 says, then these men came by agreement to the king and said to the king, recognize, O king, that it is a law of the Medes and Persians that no injunction or statute which the king establishes may be changed. It's amazing how when haters really want to get you, they will go to the king and try to tell the king how to be king just to get you. They will go to the boss and tell the boss what they have to do because they want so badly for you to be knocked out of the position that you're in. Verse 16 says this, then the king gave orders. He had to follow the law. He had to be king. So he gave the orders and Daniel was brought in and cast into the lion's den. The king spoke and said to Daniel, and this is what I love, your God, whom you constantly serve, will himself deliver you. I'm sorry, I got to run off camera for that for a second. It is an amazing thing, guys, when the unbelievers start believing in God to do what he can because they are praying for you. When somebody who doesn't even know God begins to get a little faith in God and begin to have a little trust in God, that because they can see who you are, they can see how you live, and they see how you conduct yourself, that now they're saying, hey, guess what? Your God is going to deliver you. That's a testimony in and of itself. It says this, your God, whom you constantly serve, will himself deliver you. Darius was really saying, Daniel, I've reached the extent of my abilities to do something in this situation. My heart wants to rescue you, but my position that I'm in will not allow it. The law will not allow it. But you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna trust in your God to rescue you. That's faith. That's love. He has such an affection for Daniel that he begins to believe in Daniel's God to heal, to protect Daniel. So look what he said. It says this: a stone was brought and laid over the mouth of the den, and the king sealed it with his own signet ring and with the signet rings of nobles, so that nothing would be changed in regard to Daniel. Daniel's been placed in a den of lions. What does it mean? It literally means like he was probably placed in a carved out in the side of a hill or a mountain, a room that was carved into the side with a circular hole as the opening, the doorway. And so they would bind Daniel and place Daniel in there, and he would be in there with hungry lions. I want you to think about that. Lions are rulers. Lions are a powerful, destructive force. Lions, by possession of them in those days, was a symbol of power. When you possessed those lions and you had control over the king of the animals, it was meant to show the extent of your power. It was meant to show the extent of your judgment. It was meant to show the extent of your fury. When they put Daniel in the lion's den, what they were trying to show is that we are really in control. And they tried to use King Darius to do it, but it was the haters really trying to show that, guess what? If we want you, we can get you. If we want you, we can make an example out of you. And so they placed him in this den of lions to be ravaged and destroyed. Their entire hope was that when the stone was rolled away, not only would they not see Daniel, but that Daniel would cease to exist. That literally these lions' appetite for blood and carnage and ravaging would allow Daniel to be torn and limb from limb strewn, that they would eat every bit of the delicious meat of Daniel off the bone, lick the bones, and then eat the bones. They wanted Daniel utterly consumed. Just a little quick parenthetical pause for a second. You know you need to have God if you're going to walk in your gifting. And here's why. You never know what's on the heart of the people who are opposed to you. You never know what kind of destruction people might be thinking about you and wishing on you and trying to put you in. Daniel did not know what was on the heart of all of these haters, but it didn't matter that he didn't know, because God knew and God was there. But let's keep going. It says in verse 19, and this shows you the heart that Darius had for Daniel and how much Daniel could see that the king really cared about him. Let's go back to the 17. A stone was brought and laid over the mouth of the den, and the king sealed it with his own signet ring and with the signet rings of his nobles, so that nothing would be changed in regard to Daniel. That seemed like a bleak situation, because they sealed it. The king took his signet ring, he marked it, so that way everybody would know that if this mark was in any way tampered with, then we know something else could have happened. But it was marked, it was sealed. It says this: then the king went off to his palace and spent the night fasting, and no entertainment was brought for him, and his sleep fled from him. He couldn't even sleep. He was so worried about Daniel, so hurt for Daniel, that he didn't want any entertainment. He didn't want any women. He didn't want any refreshment. He just wanted there, and he sat there and he had no sleep. He had sleepless nights over Daniel. How much did he care about Daniel? Verse 19 then says this: then the king arose at dawn at the break of day and went in haste to the lion's den. He couldn't sleep, and the moment that the sun rose up and it was safe for him to go, the king in a sprint runs to the den with the stone rolled in front of it, not knowing fully what would have happened to Daniel. And I said this to you guys last week, but I got to give you this again. Sometimes in life, the situation seems completely grim and bleak. Sometimes we can't see the light at the end of the tunnel because the stone has been rolled in front of the tunnel. Sometimes there is no light at the end of the tunnel. It does not seem like a way out. There seems like no optimistic way to be encouraged about the situation you are in. But I got to preach today and tell somebody, God's got a habit of doing amazing things behind closed stones. God has got a way of doing things. When the stone has been rolled in front, that does not limit his power. Why? Because even when the light can't be seen because the stone has been rolled in front, God is everywhere at all times, and he brings his own light. God can bring his own light to your dark situation. God can bring his own light to your grim situation. God can bring his own light when the haters want to pull the blinds down and leave you blinded. God can bring so much light that the haters are left blinded by his glory. Sometimes we get in these situations and we have dismay, but guess what the world says? Guess what? In this world, we will have trials, but be ye merry and of good cheer, for I have overcome the world. That is John 16:33, and that is Jesus speaking. No matter what you're going through, God is able to do exceedingly and abundantly above. No matter what you're going through, God is able. When they think that they write the story, God comes in and adds 2 words, but God. You got to be able to hold on to your faith, and you got to be able to remember, no matter what you're going through, but God. When they said you won't make it, but God. When they say you can't have it, but God. When they say you can't accomplish it, but God. When they say you can't be it, but God. When they say you won't live, but God. When they say you're going to die, but God. When they say your children done lost their mind, but God. When they say they won't pass the test, but God. When they say they can't save enough, but God. When they say you were not approved for the house, but God. When they say you can't get the car, but God. When they say you won't find true love, but God. When they say your marriage is falling apart, but God. God is able, and you need to hold on to that today. But sometimes God lets you go through these things, yes, for your character, but also so he can show his own glory strong. It's an amazing thing when you find out who you can really trust. And what Daniel would soon learn is, who can I trust? The first thing that God shows us in Daniel's story is that sometimes in your hardest moments, you're going to find out who your realest people are, who's really in your corner. So let's keep going, and we get to that 19. Then the king arose at dawn at the break of day and went in haste to the lion's den. And when he had come near to the den to Daniel, he cried out with a troubled voice. I can't imagine somebody who cares somebody and thinks that they're in the most dire circumstances. It said with a troubled voice. That's kind of like a trembled voice, with a hurting voice. He cries out. Why? Because King Darius was not a believer originally. He was not someone who trusted in the true and living God. He was not someone who cried out to Yahweh. But at this moment, he's crying out to Daniel, believing in Yahweh and hoping that the God would show himself strong. And with this troubled voice, it says, the king spoke and said to Daniel, Daniel, servant of the living God, has your God, whom you constantly serve, been able to deliver you from the lion's den? Darius didn't say, Daniel, you all right? You okay? How's it going? No, he said, Daniel, I need to know, has your God, who you constantly serve, been able to deliver you? Darius's hopes and dreams were riding on the fact that he had seen this man serve continually and faithfully his God. If a person does that, a real God is going to be there for them. He was believing in it. He was hoping on it. He was waiting on it. He cried out to Daniel. And it says this in verse 21, which I love. Then Daniel spoke to the king, O king, live forever. My God has sent an angel and shut the lions' mouths, and they have not harmed me. Inasmuch as I was found innocent before him and also towards you, O king, I have committed no crime. 23 says, then the king was very pleased and gave orders for Daniel to be taken up out of the den. So Daniel was taken up out of the den, and no injury whatsoever was found on him, because he had trusted in his God. The next thing that I want you to understand about this is this: guess what? God protects. Daniel was in one of the most grim situations a person could be in. What do you do when an animal that's known for being savage and vicious, that's 3 to 4 times larger than you, with an appetite for blood and for destruction, is placed in front of you, but not one, multiple, and you're locked in with no way out? God protects. What do you do when you're in your car and it flips over in the freeway and you don't know if you're going to live a moment. God protects. What do you do when people have all kind of ill intent against you and want to see your destruction? What do you need to know? God protects. What do you do when the economy slumps and falls into decay and jobs are lost and people are laid off and furloughs are happening and you don't know how you're going to pay your bills? God protects. What do you do when your child is acting like they've lost their mind and their senses and you don't know what to do? God protects. What do you do when your parents are getting elderly and you're watching the once strong become frail and you don't know what to do? God protects. What do you do when the bank and the amount goes from being in the black to being in the red? God protects. God is a protector. There is no one who can protect you better than God. This God allowed Daniel to walk into a circumstance that is otherwise unsurvivable. And Daniel not only came out, but it says he came out without a scratch. He came out without a mark. He came out without a sign that he had even been touched or scratched. And it wasn't just that he came out, but was that while he was in it, God was there. While he was in the midst of the tribulation, Daniel said that the Lord sent an angel, and he didn't send an angel to do the opposition and to fight against him. He said God's power was so strong that when he sent the angel had the ability to calm and close the mouths of the lions so that the lions did not harm him. What it means is that if the lions were walking around, they were petting up and rubbing up against Daniel like a house cat, because God had shut their mouths and they did not have a taste for Daniel. Stop looking at the circumstances of your situation and focus your eyes on Jesus, because your joy is found in Jesus, but your worry is found in your situation. If you can fix your eyes on Jesus, then you can always be reminded that he is there with you and that he will protect you no matter what you're going through. Not only does God identify who's in your corner, but ultimately God is the greatest protector of you. But let's keep on going. The third thing that I want you to understand is this, and this is one that I think a lot of us need to understand. God validates. I love what Daniel said right here. He says this in verse 21. Then Daniel spoke to the king, "O king, live forever. My God has sent an angel and shut the lions' mouths, and they have not harmed me. Inasmuch I was found innocent before him," capital HM, I was innocent before God. People made accusations against me, but I was innocent before God. God was able to see. I want you to know that God will vindicate you in his eyes. People may say things against you, but God will vindicate you in his eyes. But it's the next statement of Daniel that's so powerful to me. "And inasmuch I was found innocent before him, and also toward you, O king, I have committed no crime." The situation and the circumstances that Daniel was now placed in not only demonstrated the power of God to save Daniel's life, but they also saved Daniel's name. See, sometimes when people want to hate on us, they want to damage our name. They want to damage our reputation. They want to make accusations against our character. They want to take us from being above reproach to below reproach. But the truth is this: God can validate you. Stop worrying about the accusations that other people make, because if you hold on to God, God will not only see you through the situation and protect you, but he will also validate you. God is the one who can put the check mark next to your name that says he was right. God is the one who can hold you up in front of people and say he was right. You don't have to walk around telling people, "I told you so, I told you so, I told you so." All you got to happen is that God validates you. Because let me tell you something, the validation of God far outweighs the criticism of man. Let me say that again. The validation of God will always and forever far outweigh the criticism of man. They may say it for a minute, but when God holds you up, it's eternal. They may hate on you for a moment, but when God holds you up, it lasts forever. You need to be able to know that, guess what? The Lord fights the battles. The Lord wins the wars. The Lord upholds and the Lord tears down. And so if you can hold fast to him in your faith, then you will learn that the Lord will validate you and make your name and your identity and your testimony far more than you could have ever made it on your own. God not only protects, God also validates. Just by Daniel being able to make that statement, the king understood and was able to come to the realization that, guess what? He shouldn't have even been in there. He shouldn't have even gone through that adversity. He shouldn't have even been in that situation because he was just. He was just and he was justified for doing what he was doing. And even though accusations and haters came up against him, he was just. Let God show you're just. Because when you try to fight your own battles, you got to come up with some things. But when God fights your battles, he does it once and for all. The next thing I want you to know is this. God exalts and God tears down. God elevates and God humbles. Let me say that again to you because you need to hear that today. God exalts, which means he lifts up. And at the same time that he lifts up, he also tears down. And gosh, do we see this in this next verse? Look at this. 23 says, then the king was very pleased and gave orders for Daniel to be taken up out of the den. So Daniel was taken up out of the den and no injury was found in him. God took him up, right? It says this, and then in 24, then the king gave orders, and they brought those men who had maliciously accused Daniel, and they cast them, their children, their wives into the lion's den, and they had not reached the bottom of the den before the lions overpowered them and crushed all their bones. Come on, somebody, in the name of Jesus, I want you to look at that. Daniel was in the den all night, but the angel came and shut the mouths. But when the haters got thrown into the pit, they couldn't even hit the bottom before the lions were jumping up to grab them, to overpower them, and to destroy them. I want you to think about that. God was using what Daniel went through to prepare the lions to devour the haters. What you mean, Pastor? The lions did not eat the night that Daniel was in there. So the next morning, when they pulled Daniel out and they threw the haters in, the lions had been starving all night, had not fed, had not eaten, and were therefore at an increased appetite. And so when the angel was shutting the mouth of the lions, he was actually encouraging and increasing the appetite of the lions for the haters that were to come. Do you know this, that God will not only rescue you and validate you, but God can lift you up out of the situation you're in. And when he takes the others and throws them down, not only will they go down, not only will they be destroyed, but it will be an increased thing because God was preparing for their destruction through what you're going through. Yeah, the hater lied on you. But guess what? Yeah, the hater got the promotion. But the problem was that the hater couldn't handle the job. And so when they lost their job, all they did was open up a spot for you. Guess what? God can elevate and God can tear down. Guess what? Yeah, they went out and they stole your man. They stole your woman. But guess what? God knew you didn't need that man or woman in the first place. God knew that if you had got with them, they would have destroyed your life, destroyed your walk, and destroyed your heart. So yeah, God let them have them and let them have a destroyed heart. Let them have a destroyed mind. Let them have a destroyed life. Guess what? He saved you for something else even better. Sometimes we got to realize that while God is putting us through things, he's preparing other things all around that we can't even see to further protect us and to further destroy them. You just got to hold on to God. Your job is to sit there and fix your eyes on Jesus. Let God be God. Let God do what he's doing outside of your sight, outside of your understanding, outside of your comprehension, outside of your ability to know. Because the Bible promises us this in Romans. He works all things together for the good of them who are called according to his purpose. All things, not some things, all things. God is working all things. You might think it's a small situation where you got the hate on, but guess what? God is working all things. It could be a monumental situation, life altering, but guess what? God is still working all things. You got to be able to trust and believe in the fact that God works all things together for the good of them that are called according to his purpose. So stop worrying about the situation. Stop worrying about the circumstance. Fix your eyes on Jesus, the author and finisher of your faith, and let him show you that he not only protects and identifies and validates, but that he is the one who is in charge of the ultimate humbling and the ultimate exaltation of people. And he will look out for your good. He's the one in charge, not you. Stop trying to make stuff happen by your own hands and let God be the one who plays God. So we've seen God do all of these amazing things right here. But let's keep going because there's more. There's more that we see just in this passage. One of the most important things is this next point right here. God gets the glory. You got to realize that everything we go through in life will eventually pass away. 1 John tells us that this world is passing away. It says, do not love the world or the things in this world, right? But we spend so much time consumed with the things of this world that we forget that the most important thing in all of existence is the glory of God, that he is seen as he really is, the exalted one, the high one, the holy one, the mighty one, the God of all creation, the ruler of all things. The most important thing that God allows us to participate in all of our created existence is in his glorification. He's worthy of all the glory, all of the honor, and all of the praise. And if we do our part and live our lives according to faith in his word, and walk it out, then God will get the glory out of us, which means we have a chance to partner with God in the greatest thing we could ever be a part of. Where do you see that in the text that God gets the glory? Right after it says that the lions overpowered them and crushed all their bones. Verse 25 comes up and it says this. Then Darius the king wrote to all the peoples, nations, and men of every language who were living in all the land. May your peace abound. I make a decree that in all the dominion of my kingdom, men are to fear and tremble before the God of Daniel. He didn't say men were supposed to tremble before Daniel. He said, y'all better tremble before the God of Daniel. What Darius saw let him know that Daniel was not the power, that it was his God that was the power. Daniel was put in a position where he could not deliver himself. And though it was bleak, God delivered him. And therefore, Darius learned that guess what? Daniel's God got some power. Do people look at you and say that your God has some power? Do people look at you and say your God should be praised? Do people look at you in the life that you live and say your God should be exalted? Do people look at you and say, guess what? Great is your God. We sing a song that says, great are you, Lord. When people see the life that you live, do they say, I don't want to know your Jesus? Or do they say, great are you, Lord? We have to live by faith so that people see that when they look at us, they say, great are you, Lord. He continues on and says this. For he is the living God and enduring forever, and his kingdom is one which will not be destroyed. He delivers and rescues and performs signs and wonders in heaven and on earth, who has also delivered Daniel from the power of the lions. Let me show you this. In Daniel's life, because of the way he lived, God humbled kings towards him. Just like Nebuchadnezzar thought he was all that and erected a statue for himself. And then God used the situation to make him lose his mind. God got the glory. God got the glory in Daniel 1 when Daniel said, you know what? We're not going to defile ourselves with the meat and the wine of the land. Just give us the vegetables. And at the end of the time, look at us and you'll see we'll be healthier. Why? Because of our God. Think about the fiery furnace. When Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were sitting in the fire because they would not comply with the king's orders. And they looked in the fire and said, we threw 3 men in, but we see 4 men in there. God got the glory. And now here we are with Daniel coming out of the lion's den, unscathed and unharmed. What's happening? God is getting the glory. The ultimate accomplishment of faith is God getting the glory. One day, all of us, every person who's ever lived will stand before a righteous and just judge. And the one thing I wonder is when he looks at us, will he say, well done, my good and faithful servant, because you lived your life by faith so that I could get the glory. Daniel, by holding on to his faith and walking with tremendous obedience and faithfulness, made it so that kings ultimately had to bow themselves before the true and living God as the real king. God may want to place you around kings, but it's not so that you can be elevated. It's so that he can be elevated. Live your life by faith and see God get the glory. That day when it comes, when every knee shall bow and tongue confess that Jesus is Lord, that day when it comes, when we stand before the righteous and just judge before the throne, he will smile at us and say, well done, good and faithful servant. But God doesn't just do it in the eternal. God will also do it here. So yes, we just learned that the ultimate thing is that God gets the glory. But the final thing I want to tell you is this. When you live by faith and you walk by faith and you walk in obedience, a byproduct of that is that God will give prosperity. Now, I know I am not a prosperity preacher. I'm not somebody who sits there and tells people that you're going to be blessed with a house and a Quinjet from Marvel and all kind of stuff like that. That's not me. But the Bible specifically says, and if you got your Bible, you can go look in the book of Hebrews, the 11th chapter, verse 6, and it says this, and without faith it is impossible to please him. For he who comes to God must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of those who seek him. God, who breathed out the scriptures and allowed the unknown writer of Hebrews to write those words, is the one who fueled them with the ability to say that he is a rewarder of those who diligently seek him. God rewards the faithful. Even says it in through Jesus when he says, seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all things will be added unto you. God is a rewarder of those who seek him. And in Daniel's story, we see it here in the last verse of chapter 6. So this Daniel enjoyed success in the reign of Darius and in the reign of Cyrus the Persian. Not only did Daniel from that moment enjoy success in the kingdom of Darius, but long after the king was gone and the new king arose, guess what? Daniel was still enjoying success. Success is a form of prosperity. And because Daniel was faithful in what he did and walked by faith and not by sight and lived it out, guess what? He experienced prosperity. Do you want to experience better in your life? Then the greatest thing you can do is walk by faith according to the word of God. Hide his words in your heart that you might not sin against him. Seek first the kingdom of God and all its righteousness, and then watch what God does in your life. God is able. The question is, will you walk by faith long enough for him to show you just how able he is? Daniel went through some difficult times. He went through some hard times. He went through some adverse circumstances. He went through some pain. He went through some trials. He went through some tribulations. He went through some accusations. He went through some haters. He went through some testing. But I love the way they used to say it in old church. Coming out like pure gold, refined, pure as gold. God will use these circumstances that we go through to refine us and to change us and make us into what he wanted us to be in the first place. My prayer for you is that, like Daniel, you can have WTF faith, the kind of faith that makes people go, what the faith? What kind of thing did he have? So that they want to know our God more because of it. So guys, this is the story of Daniel. We've got more coming up in our series, WTF, What the Faith. But I pray that this blessed you. Let's pray real quick. Father, we thank you so much for Daniel, for his courage, for his faithfulness, for his walk. And I pray that just in the way that you got the glory out of him and you were exalted, that you would use us to have such faithfulness that we can also see your glory manifested across the world through everyone we come in contact with. So bless us, encourage us, strengthen us. Let us walk by your word and let us live faithful lives. And God, Do what you do best. Exalt and humble. And it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Well, guys, thank you guys for joining us. One quick thing I wanted to remind you is, guys, the way that we're able to still keep going, still keep broadcasting sermons, still keep doing things, still keep our building is because of the generosity that you guys have given. It's because of you that we've even lasted this long. It's because of you that we've been able to buy the equipment and things that we need and to hire the people that we need to continue the church in this time. It's because of you that we were able to give out school supplies for almost 250 kids, backpacks and school supplies. It's because of your generosity. It's because of your willingness to allow the Spirit of God to lead you with a spirit of generosity, because God loves a cheerful giver, that we have been able to accomplish the things that we have accomplished. And we believe that God is only at the beginning of that. We believe that we're not near the end, but that we're at the beginning and that God has great things in store. So we ask that you would continue to allow the leading of the Lord to increase you in generosity. And would you please continue to give faithfully as you have been doing in the past, so that we can continue to do more for the glory of God. Guys, you can give by going to the website, lifepointcc.org. And in the top right-hand corner, there's a button that says give. You can go in there and you can give online just like that. You can also give by sending it by mail to P.O. Box 9148, Spring, Texas 77387. That's LifePoint Community Church. Another way that you can give is via text to give, which is so simple. Just text the word give to 832-990-7878. Again, that's 832-990-7878. You can text the word give and you will get a link back. And when you click that link, you can set up online giving. You can also at the website or text to give, set up reoccurring giving so that you can give the first fruits without having to always remember, because we have so much going on. So guys, we thank you again for your generosity and your faithfulness, and we will continue to steward your gifts for the glory of God so that we can preach the word of God and see souls changed and lives saved. So guys, thank you so much for being with us this week. You take care and God bless, and we'll see y'all next week as we continue on in our series, WTF, What the Faith.
Thank you so much for joining us today. We hope that you enjoyed that video. If you would like to see more, please visit our website at lifepointcc.org, where we are believing in God to have a life-changing message waiting for you.